Howdy, howdy, and welcome to Moe's World, the baseball podcast. Yep, another baseball podcast. Here we talk about baseball like a few friends sitting at the bar. Awesome. We're excited to bring you our latest episode. If you enjoy the podcast, spread the word to your friends. In Season 2, Episode 37, we have to talk about the wild card games. Damn, some good games so far. If you're an early listener, today I apologize for producing a late podcast, but I had to wait for the results from last night's game to include them on the podcast. So, what do you think? Were the wild card games what you expected? You know, looking at the postseason bracket, I like the way these teams match up. The Tigers and Mariners, it's going to be. These teams are going in opposite directions, I guess. But, the savior for the Detroit Tigers is the start of the postseason. They're in it, And Seattle, woo! Well, they hung on, and no longer did they play second fiddle to the Astros. And we've got the Yankees and Blue Jays with all the shit the Yankees have gone through this year, and they're still in the playoffs, and they still led the American League in wins, tied with the Blue Jays. Unbelievable. In the National League, wow, this is a classic 1990 kind of style of matchups between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies. That I'm anticipating this, and I hope I'm not wrong, as being the best series of the playoffs right here. The Cubs and Milwaukee Brewers. I see this going either one way or the other. They've played each other so much. They hate each other. The Cubs had their way with the Brewers, and the Brewers had their way with the Cubs. So what's it going to be this round? It's going to be all or nothing, I think. And I think, like I said, the Dodgers and Phillies is the one that I really want to watch. So what did you think of all the games, really? I mean, what about the Tigers Guardians? Game 1 was pretty much the planned script of the Tigers. They rode Skubal for 7 2/3 innings as he was dominant. He only gave up 3 hits, a run, had a few walks, and he threw 14 Ks, throwing 107 pitches. So, obviously, the Tigers had to win this game for obvious reasons. You can't let your number one pitcher go out there and be wasted by not scoring any runs. But they squeaked out a 2-1 win over the Guardians. Game 2 was a typical 20-25 game. And why do I say that? Pulling the starter too early and going with an unproven Troy Melton as he gave up 4 runs in the 8th inning to put the game away for the offense. And what offense? The Guardians never have an offense, right? It's amazing this team cannot hit at all, but came back all the way to make this opportunity possible. It just goes to show how bad the Tigers played the second half of the season. We got a 6-1 win in Game 2 by the Guardians, and it was all even. You didn't know what was going to happen there. Game 3, though, was a clone of Game 2 for the opposite side. The Guardians pulled their rookie starter, Ciccone, after only 2 1/3 innings pitched. They proceeded to treat this game like a regular season game, plopping in one pitcher after another until the Tigers blew open the game in the 7th with 4 runs, eventually locking up the game 6-3. So, one thing that I did notice, still with the empty seats in Cleveland. And this is so far removed from the 90s when they used to sell out every friggin' game. They've made the stadium the smallest one now. in the major leagues at 34,820. Game 1 only had 26,186. Game 2 had 26,669. And Game 3, 29,891. 5,000 short of a sellout. I find that disappointing. I think the Tigers were glad the season ended. And they were still in the playoffs. That's the thing. A clean slate. They had to salvage their season now. These two teams matched up well. The Central may not be exciting, but I like the Tigers, Royals, and Guardians. Even though they all struggle with scoring runs. Question is, do the Tigers have a chance to advance? Nah, hell no. I'm sorry. Enjoy it while it lasts. They got their second win. They won this series. Now we get to see the inconsistent Mariners take on the Tigers. Should be a good series. Will the Mariners hit? That's the question of the next series. Now, over in the Bronx, Yankees, Red Sox. We all know about the rivalry, and I don't know, it's not like it used to be really. There's too many new players and young players. But Game 1 was pretty much the planned script of the Red Sox. Garrett Crochet for 7 2/3 innings. He was dominant, only giving up 4 hits, a run. He didn't walk anyone, and he had 11 Ks, throwing 117 pitches. This game was like a clone of the Tigers' must-win game. Yankee starter Max Fried was awesome, but he only went 6 1/3. Not enough. Luke Weaver did his job by giving up 2 runs in the top of the 7th to lose the game. So he's had a consistent year of doing that. So keep bringing him in. Absolutely. Red Sox win the first game 3-1. Game 2, not even going to say it's a must-win game. Game 2 was not a typical 2025 game, though. Yankee starter Carlos Rodon, he pitched good. 6 good innings, giving up 3 runs, though. Then the Yankee bullpen came into the game in the 7th, and they did not blow it. Yanks held on for a 4-3 win to even the series. Game 3. Who would have thought that you'd see 2 rookie pitches, right? In a must-win playoff game. Cam Schlittler of the Yanks pretty much established himself in that game as one cool cat on the mound, going a season-high 8 innings, no runs, 5 hits, no walks with 12 strikeouts. Boone finally got it and rode his starter instead of using the, I was going to say shaky, but they're not shaky. They're shitty. It's a shitty Yankee bullpen. So they rode them to an impressive 4-0 shutout of the Red Sox to move on to face the Blue Jays. Doesn't really surprise me looking at Game 1 attendance, 47,027. Game 2 was 47,993. Game 3 was 48,833. Capacity in the new Yankee Stadium is only 46,537, which is a sellout. So the Yanks had good support there. I think the fans were looking forward to this game and this series. Now we look at the Yankees versus Blue Jays. Well, obviously the Blue Jays led 8-5 during the regular season. But both teams ranked in the top 15 teams at the end of the season as far as how they've been performing. Now, if Aaron Boone learned something, anything from last night's game, and decides to run the starters out there for 8+ innings, I think the Yankees will win. If he reverts back to being an idiot and trusting that imploding bullpen, the series will be over quickly. I can't wait to see which choice he takes. And it's funny because when I'm looking at the last 2 weeks of the season, I'm looking at the offensive teams. This is totally ironic now. The team that could not perform all year long, we waited for them, and they missed their opportunity as the Tigers, just self-destructed. The number one team in the majors in the last 2 weeks of the season for hitting were the Kansas City Royals. They scored the most runs. They scored 62 runs in 9 games played. They had 11 home runs, 60 RBIs. They hit .292 as a team. They were kicking ass. If only they would have done that a month earlier. And we had the Cubs and Padres practically with identical records of offense, both producing 50 runs scored. Cleveland Guardians were even shown that they were waking up. The bottom team, or the team that, not really a bottom team, but the Blue Jays were struggling the last 2 weeks of the season. They only hit .217 as a team, scoring 40 runs. But like I always say, and everybody always says it, that's the regular season. Kiss it goodbye. It really doesn't make a difference anymore. Everybody gets a new life, and we'll see what happens. You know, the Padres and Cubs, game 1 was just like a regular season game to me. 2 of the best bullpens, ironically, facing each other. Pivetta going 5 innings for the Padres. That's what stood out, though. That was amazing because the Padres struggled. Wow, I think since the All-Star break, they went stretches of weeks where they didn't get 3 innings out of their starters. And amazingly, their bullpen kept them together. Now, game 2, though, was a typical game for the Padres in 2025. You know, that 3-0 win that they had. Dylan Cease was pulled after only 3 2/3 innings. You know, Mike Schulte, he goes to his pen like fast and furious, though. I don't really like what he did this year, but he got lucky and the bullpen was on target. They were one of the few bullpens that did not implode this year, the Padres and the Cubs. So he managed that game the same, and he got lucky, and he won. Now, game 3, we saw the Cubs' bats wake up as they produced 13 hits against a parade of 7 pitches thrown into the game by the Padres. I still think the Cubs should have left Jameson Taillon in longer, but they held on. So, what the hell? Now, game 1 in Chicago, we saw 39,114. Game 2 was 41,083. And game 4 was 40,895. I believe the capacity now for Wrigley is 41,649. Man, they've improved that. They always get good support, though. I anticipate a shootout in Milwaukee, though. I really do. I think these teams, they don't care for each other, and I think it's going to be sink or swim for one of these teams. One of them. I just don't know. We'll have to see. You know, it was great seeing the Reds make the playoffs. I'm glad the Reds made the playoffs, but it was too bad that they were a sacrificial lamb to one of the most professional teams, especially of the last weeks of the season. The Dodgers used the final weeks of the season to prepare. I'm sorry to say to a lot of people, the Dodgers are back. 2025 was a year of survival for them, but now it's playoff time. Snell was just what the Dodgers needed, and it doesn't hurt to have 10 runs of offense. Game 2? Oh shit, 8 more runs of offense. Mookie Betts goes 4 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Yamamoto goes 6 2/3 to avoid the pen. This was surgery performed on the wide open Reds. And support? No surprise here. 50,055, 50,465 in the first 2 games. Dodger Stadium is 56,000 is a sellout. It is the largest and oldest stadium, so it was rocking. But someone woke the sleeping bear. The Dodgers are back, and wow, what a series it's going to be facing the Phillies. I do think that that's going to be one of the best postseason series of the year. You know, looking back on these games, it's funny how some managers think and treat this wild card round like any other game. Playoff rounds used to be managed quite different than they are today. Let's look at how the Yankees in specific came out ahead of the Red Sox. The Red Sox have had the Yankees number now for years. Sorry, Yankee fans. The Red Sox have kicked your ass since 2004, also winning series in 2018 and 2021. So why would this year be any different? Aaron Boone continued to manage the Yankees like it was a regular season game. And for these Yankees, he was lucky to have Cam Schlittler save his ass. Max Fried has been the savior to the Yankees all year since Garrett Cole went down. They could not have expected any more from Max Fried than what he's done this year. And Carlos Rodon, he's also produced a very good year as the Yankees truly had a 1-2 punch in pitching. Yet Boone didn't recognize that. It's odd. He managed, like analytics say, to pull your pitcher before the third time through the opposing lineup and start to bring in your relievers. One problem with that theory, the Yankees produced an ERA of 4.40 from the 7th inning on. That's 25th out of 30 teams. I know you guys think I'm harping on this, but this is a big play. Now, they were only in front of the Twins, Angels, Diamondbacks, Rockies, and Nationals. Do any of those teams sound like playoff teams? No. So in spite of the Yankees having the worst bullpen of any team in the playoffs, Aaron Boone managed the same way. Until he had to change. That's what Cam Schlittler did. He forced Aaron Boone to ride the hot hand. I'm sorry to state the obvious, but Aaron Boone, you better wake up in the series against the Blue Jays. You need your starters to go 7+ innings to have a chance. It's as simple as that. So the question is, will Mr. Analytics buck the season norm of handing the ball to a bullpen that implodes on a daily basis? Yankee fans are praying for sure that he wakes up. Now, we've monitored the blown save and the imploding bullpen all year, as you know. We will wrap up the stats for the year after the playoffs. Why? Well, many of these teams are either riding a strong bullpen, like the Cubs and Brewers in the National League, or surprisingly, the Red Sox and Mariners have the best performing bullpens in the American League. Because of this, the Yankees, Blue Jays, Tigers, Phillies better hit to win. They cannot rely on their bullpen for anything, so they better hit to win. Let's see how this pans out in the 5-game divisional play series that is slated for start on Saturday. As we mentioned in Season 2, Episode 30, the window of opportunity. Well, it's closing for some of these teams in the postseason. With the Padres already being knocked out, you can anticipate the Padres of next season will be considerably different than the playoff team of this week. Their window of opportunity, it's gone. Oh, one other thing. Did you realize that last night was the 47th anniversary of Bucky Dent's iconic division-clinching home run? Well, Cam Schlittler probably became Cam fucking Schlittler to today's fans after last night. And if you needed any more fuel on the fire about the Dodgers, it appears the hottest hitters in the playoffs so far are mostly Dodgers, as Mookie Betts is leading a contingent of teammates as 5 out of the top 10 playoff hitters are Dodgers. Great. Well, I think that's a wrap for today. Thank you for joining us for our 37th episode of Season 2 of Mo's World, the baseball podcast. Our regular schedule for new episodes is every Friday, with each episode lasting approximately 20 minutes. We appreciate your support and encourage you to share the podcast with your friends. Our next episode will be released on Friday, October 10th, as we talk about the divisional round of playoffs. We look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, ask yourself, whose world is it? It's Mo's World.